Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to another episode of Jacob Walks Over a Bridge. I'm Jacob, currently walking over a bridge, and I should warn you that this episode may at some point be cut short. I tried calling my grandmother earlier today, but I caught her at the doctor's office, and she promised to call me back when she got home, and she's usually very good about that. So, and of course I'll take that call over recording a podcast any day. So just a warning that may happen. So I'm not sure what happens to recordings on iPhones when someone else calls you and you're recording, and if I had to guess, I would probably say that the recording just stops. Seeing what my previous record is with trying to record things or record podcast episodes while doing stuff like taking video. So we'll see what happens. Should be fun. Fun for me. I'll get to talk to my grandma. You will have to either hope for a two-parter or just, I guess, settle for whatever you can get. But thankfully, I am here to talk for as long as I can now. And so here I am on the Queensboro Bridge again. I know you're probably thinking, Jacob, for shame. Here you are, taking pride in doing a new bridge every episode, and here you're repeating one. And to that I say, ho hum. This is my show, and while it was cool, I was getting to walk over a different bridge every episode, and I will continue to find new bridges to walk over, including, I'm sure, the next few episodes will be bridges that not only have I never recorded from, but I've never walked over at all. So you have those to look forward to. But considering how most all of season 1, save for a short cameo from a bridge over the Schuylkill River in Philadelphia, still don't know if I'm saying that river right, but every episode I did last year was just over this bridge. And it's a good bridge, albeit the pedestrian lane is not as large as I'd like it, especially now that I've walked over a multitude of bridges and have experienced a few different variations of the pedestrian bikeway combo. The Queensboro Bridge, not so great at the moment, of course. I know I've talked about how they are trying to, or by they I mean some illustrious city councilmen or city council members, or just men, are trying to I don't know if you can say expand is the word, but there's a whole other side of the bridge that's not really used except for emergencies, as far as I'm aware, that they're talking about retrofitting to be either the new pedestrian or bikeway, which would be a very welcome change for this bridge. But for now, it's the bridge I certainly walked over the most over the course of my tenure in this city, by far. It's a nice, cool day. Well, cool by summer standards. The highs today were only in the mid-60s. So, relatively cool, and I welcome this change. I'm built like a bear. I know that I don't think my body type comes over well over sound, or maybe it does, I don't know. You could tell me. But I'm built like a bear, and I do much better in the cooler weather than the hotter weather, by a long shot. So I welcome the first fall feeling of the season. Granted, it's supposed to get back up to around 80 degrees in just a couple days, but this is a nice little taste of what's to come, and I'm very hopeful that we'll actually get a nice prolonged fall season as opposed to just skipping over the best weather. You know, like I'd say my favorite highs are probably high 50s to low 60s, and it seems like over the course of the past few years we've generally skipped over that. You know, it'll be 70s until October, and then all of a sudden it'll drop to the 40s. That seems like the trend that's happened over the past few years, and I'm excited to see that change. Definitely, I'm very happy with today's weather, and I already took one longish walk today. From my apartment, I walked up to the Aldi that's up in Harlem, so that's about, give or take, 2.5 miles from my apartment, and they did a longer loop back home, so got at least 5-6 miles out of that. Now I'm walking to Queens. It's one of our rare afternoon episodes. Very few, almost, especially, well, last year, except for obviously the Philadelphia episode. Well, I don't even know, I don't remember what time of day I recorded that one, but the majority of the episodes I've recorded have been in the morning. You know, when I start off with the good morning at the very beginning of this episode, that's usually the time of day that's usually why it's the most emphatic, because it is the morning, and I'm wishing everyone, at least who's within earshot, good morning, and then good afternoon or good evening. Kind of hush those, don't need everyone knowing what I'm doing, but this is, what time is it now? Clock says 4:41. The sun still up, though, as is the case this late in the summer, the sun setting earlier and earlier. You know, just a hint of a sunset. You know, nothing too fancy with the colors just yet. It's a very clear day, not a cloud in the sky. Over my right shoulder, through some chain link fence and over the street, I can make out the New York City skyline. I'll take a picture of it for the gram. Yeah, is it that great of a picture? Not really, but there, I took a picture. Now it's not like I said, it's not a very good shot. There's a beam in the way. I didn't really give myself a lot of time to set this picture up like I'd want to. I'm not really there's a lot of people biking and scootering and walking and running all around. This is a very high volume traffic bridge, especially these days when people are trying to avoid taking public transit or any sort of transit that involves confined spaces. So it's definitely increased in volume, and that's been documented. But with all that going on around me, I didn't really feel like steadying my hand or finding the perfect shot. I just took my camera up, took it, and was on my way. Something I am curious to see, semi-excited maybe even, is the prospect of, now that the weather will slowly start to get cooler, is whether mask adherence is going to improve or stay about the same. At least outside, when people are inside, the temperature controlled. I imagine that it's going to be very similar to how it is now, but I mean, you walk into a store or supermarket, a Subway, and it's a crapshoot whether or not someone's going to be wearing a mask or wearing it properly or not. People don't always seem to get it. But for what I'm thinking about for outside is that the mask when it's cooler, actually somewhat comfortable, surprisingly. Like in the summertime, wearing the mask, it gets really hot in there, especially like I said, I'm built like a bear, and that includes facial hair, because as you know, all bears have facial hair. But mustache definitely gets sweaty. It's surprising that's the only part of my face that really got sweaty with the mask on. And not the chin, not the cheeks, or the lower mouth area, I don't know. Just the mustache. That got kind of, that was definitely uncomfortable. But for the winter months, or at least now that it's going to get cooler, even today when I was walking this morning and wearing the mask, it was kind of nice, a little bit of a face warmer. So I look forward to our cooler future for many reasons. So I'm also looking forward to eventually getting to Queens. I'm just passing over the second half of Roosevelt Island now. I'm gonna get dinner at a Thai place, not before picking up all the essentials that I always talk about, but I'll talk about again. I'm gonna get my bagels, I'm gonna get some Greek food. I'm going home to my parents' house for the weekend coming up for the high holidays, so Shana Tova to everyone. Hope it's gonna be a great year. I think we're 5,780 something at this point. 5,782 maybe. For the sake of the listeners out there, I'm gonna look it up, and hopefully again this doesn't mess up. Using the browser, I think that's okay. I'm using, as I guess maybe ironically or not, I'm using Microsoft Edge on my phone. Very few people I know change the browser they use on a phone at all, especially with iPhones. You get Safari, people, maybe they'll put Chrome on there, but I thought that it was very funny to be able to use what originally was, Internet Explorer, but was rebranded for many reasons. But I'm gonna use what Jewish, I could type and walk, and avoid getting run over. I'm triple tasking here. What Jewish year is coming? Here, thank you, autocorrect. 5,781. That's the year. Let's hope 5,781 is better than 5,780 was. Because for the most part it was not great on many levels. There's a good chance it's going to be just as interesting as the last year, but get your Jewish New Year's resolutions in now while you can. Well, I guess the time for that, they actually built that into the Jewish calendar. Usually, not necessarily in the same format, of course, as the Gregorian traditional New Year's resolutions are, but it's I'm sure Jewish scholars will stop me. It's been a long time since I've been to shul, let alone had formal Jewish education about the topic. Then again, I went to Rosh Hashanah services last year, well, for one day, where they were very good about explaining everything, and I know it kind of, so maybe I wasn't really listening that well. But anyway, so for Rosh Hashanah, that's the beginning of the Jewish New Year, and then about 9 days afterwards, give or take, you have Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day of the year. And in Jewish tradition, on Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, God opens up the book of life and decides whether or not you're going to be written in that book and live another year or not, which has the obvious implications. So he opens the they, God, not the gender God. God opens the book on Rosh Hashanah and closes it on Yom Kippur. So you have until, from the start of Rosh Hashanah to the start of Yom Kippur, or end of Yom Kippur. I'm not sure exactly when the book is closed, but you have until that time to get your act together. It's almost like when all the Christian boys and girls, etc., try to be good before Christmas to get the Christmas presents. Jews, they're trying to be good so that way they can live another year. The best gift of all. So in that time, you're supposed to, that week or so, you're supposed to try to amend anything you've done wrong, atone for things you may have messed up on. Like if you got into an argument with a friend, you're supposed to make up to them and apologize and make good and try to, be a better person. Of course, you're supposed to do this all year round, or you should aspire to be a good person all year round and not get yourself into situations where you'd have to go off on an atonement quest. But it's the time of year where so if you are a friend of mine and are listening to this in a timely manner and are contacted by me between the Rosh Hashanah, this year begins the sundown of this coming Friday. If today's the 15th, today's Tuesday, last I checked. It's hard to remember the days of the week, even more when you're not working. 16th, so the 18th, evening of the 18th to the evening of the 20th. Rosh Hashanah is a 2-day event in most places in the world. And why have 1 day for New Year's when you could have 2? Always forgot how fun it was to try to avoid traffic on this bridge. Especially, the inclines are usually fun. I mean, the bridge itself is mostly inclined one way or the other. The easiest part of the bridge to traverse is the middle, over Roosevelt Island, where it's generally, for the most part, flat. For the longest time, I've tried to figure out if there's a grade to the bridge at that point, one way or the other. So I've convinced myself on multiple occasions that it's going one way or the other, or is flat. I'm sure there's some answer out there on the internet about how steep. Well, it's obvious which parts of the bridge are steeper than others, but at that middle part, you never quite tell. It's possible that it's all three or none. Well, it can't be none. That would, it can't be neither inclined one way or the other or flat. Those are the three options. So maybe one day I'll look into that, or not.